Hey, what's going on everyone? Cowbiz here, and today I have a video on Warframe. As of lately on the internet, after the news of Destiny 2's live service being put on ice, there's a lot of people from other gaming communities, primarily Warframe, reaching out to the Destiny community to help find a new game. While many of these people may feel like they are being helpful and kind to the average person who is mourning, this can come off as annoying and preachy. One of Warframe's lead designers even says this himself. I definitely understand both sides of the coin. I play both Warframe and Destiny, and I have for a multitude of years. I started Warframe back in 2016, and the game wasn't as polished as it is now. And with Destiny, I started in 2014 as it was my Christmas present, because Destiny looked like the closest thing I was going to get to World of Warcraft on a console. With that being said, I think it's important to let the Destiny community decide where they want us to go next, because essentially our Chinese food place just got shut down, and suggesting Warframe is like telling me to go eat Italian food. Like, I might like Italian food, but you can't say it is just like Chinese food. So without further ado, we need to ask the question, is Warframe for you? Starting off, we need to establish something important. The only similarities that Warframe and Destiny have, in my opinion, are the tags that they share on the Steam store and other online gaming stores. When it comes to what sets them apart on a non-surface level, I think both games provide a unique take on things. For example, let's take the sci-fi tag. While the tag is shared between both games, I think narratively the games are vastly different, even though they both start on Earth and revolve around the Sol system. Warframe doesn't really have your typical alien inside of its world. Most enemies can be linked back to a common ancestor of humanity, with a few exceptions that have appeared in more recent years, while Destiny has a vast variety of alien species both on and off screen. In Warframe, most of the massive threats are from our solar system, while Destiny threats are typically part of an overarching narrative with fourth dimensional beings being involved in some form or fashion. This isn't to say I think one story is vastly superior to the other or one is more interesting, but rather to point out the differences. If you like a more space fantasy with themes of hope and good versus evil, Destiny is your game. But if you like more personal stories with themes of war, political gain, womanhood, and the impact it has on a corrupt person, you're in for one of the coolest stories told with Warframe. Now that I have explained the similarities between tags and how unique each game takes those tags, I want to point out things that aren't promoted on your typical store page, especially when it comes to describing Warframe. The following list of tags that I've come up with highlight what Warframe truly is to me, and I would say many others. Warframe is a self-published sandbox horde shooter, community-driven economy, content island, player goal-driven hack-and-slash game. I knew I just threw a word salad at you, so let me break it down piece by piece. Self-published, pretty self-explanatory. Digital Extremes, while they are technically owned under Tencent, operate pretty independently. On the surface, they seemingly do not answer to anyone else when it comes to the games they make and what they want to create for their games. Their creative freedom is very present, especially with the current game director Rebecca Ford, and they're willing to take creative risk. The sandbox aspect of the game comes to how players interact with it. While I think Destiny has really good gunplay, Warframe is Power Fantasy the game. If you want to nuke rooms of enemies with high kills per minute, Warframe is for you. Which is why I also label it as a horde shooter. One of Warframe's strengths is the amount of enemy density that there is within the game. There's constantly going to be swarms of enemies chasing after you, especially on the more endless game modes. So rarely are you going to feel like the map is empty and devoid of any enemies for you to kill. The community-driven economy has to do with its trading system. Players decide the price of items relative to what it takes to get the item, and decides the price on a fair level between players. Some may try to nickel and dime you or scam you, but that's true for any type of economy. Content Island is how I would describe a lot of the updates that come to the game long term. Every once in a while, you'll find a complete experience, plus something that was added at a later time. Let's take Earth for example. On Earth, there's this location called Cetus. Cetus was added after Warframe had been out, and is this open world experience. And while that is a complete experience, there's tiny content islands within this complete experience. Take something like Eidolon Hunts, which is a pseudo open world boss fight, or you can take the character Kiyome and her content island. She was added more recently for new players to engage with, to get a Warframe that you can craft within a day and be able to engage with a new character earlier on in your experience. Player-driven goals is what I would describe as the endgame. While there are things that Digital Extremes will put into the game for you to chase down, or it might be an alternative to an already existing grind, a lot of them aren't necessary for enjoyment. Some players purely just like fashion framing and making their characters look pretty. Others like build crafting. Others just like engaging with the economy and farming out platinum, because seeing that number goes up is as satisfying as making your weapon number go up. Some players like endurance or challenge. They'll be in a mission for a long time as it increases in difficulty, or they like engaging with hard mode bosses, which aren't really necessary to progress in the game, and typically offer up cosmetic rewards that shows off that yes, you killed this boss. And lastly, the hack and slash tag. When it comes to looter shooters, I typically don't know of any one that has a really good melee system, and Digital Extremes excels in the feeling of using a melee weapon, while someone like Bungie excels in using weapons like a hand cannon. As much as I like Destiny, I don't think there's a singular melee system or a string of melee attacks that I like as much as something like Warframe style, and I think it's quite honestly something that doesn't get enough credit. With all of that out of the way, I want to return to an earlier point of content islands. The game heavily revolves around this system of islands coming together. For example, there was a story called Jade Shadow that came out about 2 years ago, and the upcoming update, there's going to be a sequel to this update that's going to bring new stories that evolve from that old content island. It is a requirement to do the previous content island before you can engage with this new one. And you'll find out that a lot of content islands do have some bridges that you need to cross and able to engage with them. For example, I brought up Earth and Cetus and this Kyome character. Well, to do Kyome quests, you need to progress the Cetus storyline far enough to be able to engage with it. It may seem overwhelming to you, but what I highly recommend is that you take the game one step at a time. Typically, the game will recommend what quests you should do next, and while personally I think there are some quests that come a bit too early into the game's recommendation, I believe generally speaking, where the game guides you is the best way to easily absorb the game step by step. There are a lot of things to do in this ocean, so many islands to explore, some larger than others. You can sink plenty of hours into. Don't get scared because there's a lot of islands. Find one that you like and start exploring it. I think that's the best advice I can give to a newer player as someone who's been playing since 2016 to see 10 years of updates come to a game. And mind you, Digital Extreme doesn't like to remove content. If anything, they like updating it instead. So you're likely to find old and new players inside of a ton of content throughout the game. You never need to worry about a specific area of the game being dead, with a few exceptions, which brings us to what Warframe doesn't have that Destiny does. Destiny players often do say that there is no other game that has raids like Destiny, and that's true in Warframe as well. There is no Destiny raids in here. There aren't even raids at all. There are raid-esque encounters, but they don't actually require you to play with other people. You can play this game completely solo and succeed. And any raid-esque encounters are very vaguely raid-like. A lot of the time, it's more of a fancy boss fight. I would say one of the more complex encounters in the game is considered mid-game and not worth doing anymore because its rewards are outdated. And that activity that I'm speaking of was the Eidolons I mentioned earlier in reference to Cetus. Following up that, Warframe does have PvP, but it's quite dead. The developers don't want to put resources into managing that side of the game, given that its player count is pretty low. And quite honestly, how do you balance a game like Warframe, a one where you can nuke rooms and have this insane power fantasy just to go to a completely different version of the game? While I'm not going to offer any suggestions, I'm just going to say it as it is. Destiny's PvP, while not receiving many updates as of late, has a way better feeling because there's the focus on gunplay within Destiny. And given that there's no good PvP in Warframe, that also means there's not really a Gambit-like experience inside of Warframe as well. The closest thing you have is more of a race to complete missions versus other players at the same time. And no one really engages with this content either, and is often filled with bots. So if those things are important to you inside of Destiny, you won't find it here in Warframe. And I wouldn't recommend you playing Warframe if you're trying to find a game that offers the things like Destiny has. With that being said, I would like to end this video with a thank you to Rebecca Ford and Pablo from the Warframe team. With the end to the live service aspect of Destiny 2, both of them have sent out tweets supporting the grieving Destiny community and speaking upon the influence Bungie has on them, more so Rebecca on that final point. Rebecca speaks on how Halo 3 heavily inspired her and how that influence has affected Warframe. So without Halo 3, there may not be as good of Warframe as there is today without Rebecca. And I'm extremely thankful for Rebecca being the director of the game. Before she was the director, I wasn't as big of a Warframe fan as I currently am. And now that she's in charge, her creative vision has reshaped what the game could be. In the background footage, you've seen me fighting in a pretty Earth-looking area, yet something like this didn't exist years ago and was completely a creative risk that she took, as it is completely jarring comparatively to the rest of the game. And I appreciate that about Digital Extremes. So if that sounds interesting to you, I would recommend giving Warframe a try. With that being said, thank you guys for watching. Let me know what games you guys are thinking of playing to fill that Destiny hole. Maybe I'll try them out and give it a review myself. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Stay safe, y'all.